Forget the diplomatic handshake. The new agreement for a permanent U.S. embassy compound in Jerusalem isn't just about recognizing a capital. It is the physical hardening of an American strategic foothold that fundamentally alters the regional balance of power. For decades, U.S. presence was fluid, diplomatic, and temporary. This move locks in infrastructure that makes withdrawal politically impossible and strategically costly, effectively ending any future ambiguity regarding Israel's status as a permanent node in Washington's security architecture. It transforms a diplomatic gesture into an irreversible strategic asset that limits negotiation flexibility for every player in the Levant. To understand why this matters beyond the headlines, we must first distinguish between fluid diplomacy and fixed infrastructure. For nearly 60 years since 1967, when U.S. commitment to Israel began steadily strengthening in scale and scope, American presence relied on temporary mission buildings or leased properties that could be scaled back during political shifts. These were tools of conditional engagement. You can move a flagpole. You cannot easily unbuild concrete walls designed for centuries. The shift from these temporary structures to a permanent compound signals a transition where the United States is no longer just visiting the region but anchoring itself there in stone and steel. Unlike previous eras, this physical reality creates high exit costs that future administrations cannot undo without triggering a major diplomatic rupture. It establishes a fact on the ground that makes any future ambiguity regarding Israel's status impossible to maintain without challenging American sovereignty directly. This entrenchment is not an isolated event, but serves as the civilian anchor for a deeper military integration already underway. The permanent embassy aligns with broader trends of formalizing Israel's incorporation into U.S. Central Command structures, marking a fusion of military and strategic interests that treats Israeli and American security needs as operationally unified against shared threats like Iranian expansionism. While trade links established through agreements like the Abraham Accords allow Emirati businesses to operate openly with Israeli partners without requiring government cover, embedding U.S.-aligned interests into the commercial fabric, real estate is far stickier than commerce. The UAE accounts for approximately 2.4% of total global oil trade and nearly 1.5% of all global trade volume, making economic integration critical. However, a port in Dubai connects to tech supply chains, whereas Jerusalem now connects U.S. command structures directly to the heart of Israeli security doctrine. This physical presence ensures that military coordination is not just a matter of periodic summits, but an ongoing operational reality supported by permanent infrastructure on the ground. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. The strategic logic behind this hardening requires us to pivot from viewing Israel as a liability to seeing it as a calculated asset for U.S. regional stability. Some academic analysis argues that Israel has become a burden due to destabilizing actions in Gaza or Lebanon, suggesting that cutting ties might be the prudent choice. However, Washington's decision via permanent infrastructure suggests a different calculation. Rather than severing relations with a volatile ally, the United States is choosing to harden its commitment to prevent total regional collapse. This move prioritizes long-term deterrence over short-term diplomatic flexibility. It effectively bets that a locked-in presence yields more stability than an ambiguous one where allies might doubt American resolve. By absorbing this liability through permanent infrastructure, Washington signals that it prefers the cost of entrenchment over the risk of losing influence in the region entirely to other powers seeking to fill the vacuum left by perceived unreliability. This context becomes even clearer when viewed against the backdrop of shifting alliances and the rise of alternative power centers. The move occurs precisely as Arab states, driven by anxiety over long-term U.S. security commitments, begin diversifying their partnerships. Saudi Arabia's pivot toward China for regional rapprochement is a prime example of this multipolar engagement. Yet, while Riyadh seeks economic alternatives with Beijing, they still require American security guarantees for their own survival and stability. By cementing its position in Jerusalem as the ultimate guarantor of Israel's security and territorial status, Washington creates a hard floor under regional diplomacy. This means no future peace process can ignore the physical reality of permanent American sovereignty, like presence on Israeli soil, without challenging Washington directly. It forces all regional actors to adapt their strategies around this fixed American reality, rather than hoping for a shift in Washington's mood that might allow them to bypass U.S. interests entirely. The implications for negotiation and conflict resolution are profound, creating what can only be described as a state of strategic paralysis regarding the status quo. Future peace talks are no longer theoretical exercises where borders can be redrawn based on temporary political wins or shifting administrations. The permanent embassy makes Jerusalem a non-negotiable U.S. strategic interest, effectively removing it from the table of potential compromises for any future administration or Palestinian leadership. This changes how Iran and its proxies calculate risk. They are no longer fighting a temporary occupier that might leave if public opinion turns against them, but an entrenched power with a permanent stake in the outcome of any conflict. The region now operates under a new calculus where U.S. support is not just financial aid or logistical support, but physical entrenchment that makes withdrawal prohibitively expensive for Washington and costly for adversaries who hope to exploit American fatigue. Ultimately, this agreement marks the end of an era defined by ambiguity about America's long-term role in the Middle East. The ability for U.S. policy to waver between recognition and pressure is gone, replaced by a physical commitment that locks in the status quo for generations. This forces all regional actors to adapt their strategies around a fixed American reality rather than hoping for a shift in Washington's mood. For curious observers of global affairs, this means understanding that while trade flows like water can be redirected or rerouted through new agreements with China or other partners, physical infrastructure acts as an anchor that holds the geopolitical landscape steady against the tides of change. The United States has chosen to make its presence in Jerusalem permanent not out of sentimentality, but because it recognizes that a fluid strategy is insufficient for maintaining dominance in a region where rival powers are actively seeking to displace American influence. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.